In 1992, Ilhan Omar came to this country from a refugee camp in East Africa, Kenya. 3 years later, she and her family applied for and received refugee status in the United States. 5 years after that, she became a U.S. citizen, and she's been attacking the United States as a racist hellhole pretty much ever since. According to Omar, there's barely a difference between this country and terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda. In a 2013 interview, Omar complained that people seemed to think there was a big difference between America and Al-Qaeda. Watch.
When I was in college, I took a terrorism class. Every time the professor said Al-Qaeda, he sort of like his shoulders went up, and
he's in command here.
Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah. You don't say America with an intensity. You don't say England with an intensity. You don't say the army with an intensity.
So she still feels this way. We know because she recently spoke to a group hosted by the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE. And while there, the congresswoman complained that America is bigoted against Muslims. They're second-class citizens, she said. She offered no proof of that. It's an absurd claim. Muslims live with far greater freedom in America than they do in any Islamic country on the planet. That's why they move here. Millions and millions more would like to join them. And you would too, if you were them. That's why Congresswoman Omar lives here, too, and not in Somalia. In America, by the way, she's an elected member of Congress. Could she do that in Saudi Arabia? No. Is she grateful for that? No. She never stops complaining. And as part of that complaining, she made this now famous remark about 9/11.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
Some people did something, but we're the real victims here. Omar's understatement attracted plenty of criticism. The New York Post ran a cover showing images of the 9/11 attacks, in case you'd forgotten what some people did. Then late last week, the president joined the criticism by tweeting this video.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something.
So you have no idea right now?
There's another one. Another plane just hit.
Some people did something.
Oh my goodness, there is smoke pouring out of the Pentagon.
Some people did something.
Little over the top? Yeah, maybe. If you're Ilhan Omar, you probably wouldn't like that video. People don't like to be criticized. Got it. But would you feel physically threatened by that tweet? Well, not unless you believe that disagreement is the same as violence. And as it happens, the left does believe that disagreement is the same as violence, or claims to believe that. All of a sudden, everyone on television is telling us that Trump is trying to hurt Ilhan Omar.
Many are calling Trump's tweet and that video an incitement to violence against the Congresswoman.
Donald Trump is trying to incite violence.
This is not just incitement to violence.
This is an incitement to violence.
The goal is inciting violence.
We are getting to a level where this is an incitement of violence.
No question is he inciting violence towards Muslims, not even only Ilhan Omar, but Muslim Americans in this country.
So Cory Booker, who will say literally anything, went farther, of course. That's a signature move. Whenever everyone else is saying something ridiculous, Booker will triple down on the insanity and pretend to be completely sincere about it. In this case, Booker was happy to blame Trump for actual terror attacks.
Since 9/11, we've had terrorist attacks in this country. The majority of them have been right-wing extremists, and the majority of those have been white supremacist attacks, from a synagogue in Pittsburgh to a church in South Carolina. And these are white supremacist groups that use language, as we saw as far away as New Zealand, use our president's language almost as if as a license for these attacks.
I swear, in 20 years, every fifth grader will believe 9/11 was committed by white supremacists. Totally true. You watch, you heard it here first. They're the real threat. We need to fear and suppress them. And that's what Booker's saying. And to prove it, he and so many demagogues on the left are forever telling us about the epidemic of hate crimes in this country. But they're lying. There is no epidemic of hate crimes. We checked. We know what the numbers are. We checked for California, the biggest state, the most liberal state. Here are the numbers. In 2017, the state of California convicted a total of 65 people of hate crimes statewide. 65 out of a population of almost 40 million people. By the way, there were fewer hate crimes in California in 2017 under Trump than there were in 1996 under the Bill Clinton administration. That epidemic is fake. It's propaganda. They're trying to control you with fear. Your opinions are violence. That's what they're saying. Your opinions are violence. Disagreeing with me is assault. For my safety, you must not be allowed to speak. You must obey. That's what they're telling you, and you can see why. Here's where we come into it. If we go along with this, if we accede to these demands, it's over. If we let them redefine speech as violence, the First Amendment has no meaning. They can tell you what to say and when to say it. They can use any force necessary to make you be quiet, just as you would do whatever you needed to do and use whatever force was necessary to stop a terror attack. Because they're saying your opinions and a terror attack are the same thing. This is a scary argument, and we should be afraid of it. Congressman Mike Johnson represents the state of Louisiana. He's been at the very center of this impeachment business for a long time. He joins us tonight. Congressman, well, first I just have to ask, as a personal matter, since this has finally wrapped up as of yesterday with the vote, are you happy to be out of impeachment world?
I am so happy, Tucker. I get to go back to my real life. My wife and 4 kids have been missing me the last few weeks. This was a really sad chapter in American history, and we're glad it's behind us.
So you were obviously watching there at the State of the Union. When you saw the speaker rip the president's speech into pieces, did you take that as a sign of politeness, as an expression of kindness and friendship?
No, of course not. I mean, it was a shameful display. It was stunning, really, to many members sitting in the House. It was totally unprecedented. It was shameless, and it was also unlawful, Tucker. You know, a lot of people have been talking about this the last 48 hours, and I did a little legal memo to point out to my colleagues that she actually committed a felony when she tore that paper up. It wasn't just any copy of the State of the Union address. It was the copy, the original. And we have over 2 centuries of custom and tradition, and of course the Constitution that calls for the State of the Union address, that when the president delivers the copies to those top legal officers, the 2 top legislative officers in that co-equal branch of government, those are the official documents of the House, and if you tear those up, you violated a specific statute in the criminal code.
We're living in a country where there are more than 10 million foreign nationals here illegally whose identities we don't know. So, I mean, we're tolerating a lot of illegal behavior, I would say, at the moment, which is not in any way to excuse what she did. But it does seem kind of Orwellian to describe that as an act of kindness rather than just say, look, I hate the guy, his very words sicken me, I vandalized his speech because it makes me feel good. I mean, why not just say what's obvious?
She took great delight in it, and in fact she practiced the rip. Everybody's seen the video now where she was trying to test it and see how many pages she could do. Look, we're losing the decorum, we're losing the tradition of civility in the Congress and the institution, and it's just a really sad thing. I don't know how we put this genie back in the bottle.
Well, that's kind of the question. I mean, this is an unknowable, I guess, hypothetical, but I still have to ask you. There's been a lot of talk about how this first impeachment in this presidency was the first in a series. Do you think it's possible that Democrats do this again?
I think it's not only possible, I think it's probable. I know that I just left the House floor, and there's some Democrat colleagues of mine in there who are committed to doing this again, and some of them are openly saying it. So there's going to be no end to this. And I tell you what, if we don't get the Republican majority back in the House this election cycle, this fall, we're in for a long, dark road for the country. I'm really concerned about it.
They do that again, Trump will be at 60%, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
Congressman, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tucker. Appreciate it.
So Representative Omar blamed the United States for the terrorist attacks on our country, saying that terrorism is a reaction to our involvement in other people's affairs. She smeared U.S. service members involved in Black Hawk Down. In other words, she slandered the brave Americans who were trying to keep peace in Somalia. Omar minimized the September 11th attacks on our homeland, saying some people did something. I don't think so. Some people did something. Yeah, some people did something, all right. She pleaded for compassion for ISIS recruits attempting to join the terrorist organization. She was looking for compassion. Omar laughed that Americans speak of Al-Qaeda in a menacing tone and remarked that you don't say America with this intensity. You say Al-Qaeda makes you proud. Al-Qaeda makes you proud. You don't speak that way about America. And at a press conference just this week, when asked whether she supported Al-Qaeda, that's our enemy. That's our enemy. They are a very serious problem that we take care of, but they always seem to come along somewhere. She refused to answer. She didn't want to give an answer to that question. Omar blamed the United States for the crisis in Venezuela. I mean, think of that one. And she looks down with contempt on the hard-working Americans, saying that ignorance is pervasive in many parts of this country. And obviously and importantly, Omar has a history of launching vicious anti-Semitic screeds. And she talked about the evil Israel, and it's all about the Benjamins. Not a good thing to say. So that's Omar.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Nancy, your good friend, your very good friend, Nancy Pelosi, was on MSNBC earlier today with your other good friends, accusing you of something which took my breath away. Watch.
What does he have on Donald Trump that he have to constantly be catering to Putin, telling Putin, go into these countries, NATO countries? I think it's probably financial.
Your response. She said you're going to abandon NATO and Putin has something on you.
So I know the real Nancy Pelosi. She's highly overrated. Let me just tell you about Nancy. I went in. It's all sound bites. You know, with them, it's all misinformation. Everything is dis and mis. Little difference. Dis and misinformation. I went in, got in, and I stopped Nord Stream 2. Most people don't know what that's the Russian pipeline. The most important economic deal, plus, I call it economic plus, much more than economic, ever. I stopped it. I told Germany, you're not having it. I told all of Europe, you're not having it. Anybody that wants to have it, they're not dealing with you. I ended it. That's the biggest deal ever in the history of Russia. They're going to supply Europe with oil and gas. I ended it. Biden comes in and he vetoed what I had done. It was done. Nord Stream 2 was done, and he approved it. But he ended the Keystone Pipeline, which is our pipeline, which should have been approved.
Yeah.
When people say that about Russia, and Putin would even say to me, he said, you treat us very bad. I had sanctions on Russia that nobody's ever put there before. In fact, Biden took them off. It's just misinformation. Anybody that walked in and ended, and remember this, Putin took land from every president of our last 5, except for one, me. And now he's going for the big one. He's going for all of Ukraine.
No.
He's going for all of Ukraine, not just a little piece. He's going for all of